is being made in New York about Sam Darnold and how he looks and what an upside they're expecting from him this year. Adam Gase was in Miami for the last 3 years, didn't have success 2 of those 3 years, but one of those years he took them to the postseason. Wondering where your line of thinking is as it pertains to Sam Darnold and what you expect and what your New York Jets fans expect from him this upcoming season, based in part on guys that he has available to him at his disposal, along with the new coach that he's playing for.
Well, I think again, Sam or Adam is an offensive-minded coach, very good coach. He coached with me in Denver, had Peyton Manning there, and had great success with. But I think the style of offense. I think Adams an outstanding offensive mind. I think will help Sam Darnold. But more critical than that to me is again supporting cast. The moves they've made as far as weapons, because a quarterback can't do it by himself. He has to have guys that can win matchups, and this game is about matchups. So I kind of like what they've created there. I think they'll play pretty scrappy defense. I think. But I think they'll compete in that AFC East division this year, and I really like the outlook for the New York Jets this fall.
Last question to you. Give me your sleeper team to watch, a team that we're not paying enough attention to that you think can make some real noise in each conference, the AFC and the NFC this year.
Well, I was just at the Eagles camp. I really like the football team that Howie Roseman has assembled there. And I'm a real fan of Carson Wentz. I think he's got both the weapons around him this year. It all revolves around health, Stephen A. And, that's unpredictable. But I really like them as an NFC team. Not like that it's going to be a big surprise, but, even the fact last year with a bunch of injuries, they were able to, get into the playoffs in a tough division and, go to Chicago and beat a pretty darn good Chicago Bear team. On the AFC side, aside from the teams that have had a lot of success, I think the Raiders will be much improved. I don't know that they're quite there yet to be a playoff team, but I see them kind of taking a jump from 4-12.
Got you. John Fox, I appreciate you, buddy. Looking forward to watching you on TV today and in the weeks and months to come. Thank you so much, buddy. You take care.
All right, Stephen A. Thanks for having me on.
All right, thank you so much. John Fox, former head coach with the Carolina Panthers, Denver Broncos, Chicago Bears, went to 2 Super Bowls as a coach. He's right here with Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Really thank him for his time. Let's get back to the calls as I promised, or to the calls as I promised. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Let's go right to it. Curtis, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
Well, first and foremost, I want to say thank you, Stephen A., for just being great imagery for us black men out here in America. So once again, just thank you for that.
Thank you.
But what I want to get to is I would love for the media to stop saying this is police brutality and stay what it is. This is domestic terrorism, and it has come to a great shock that the flag that we pledge allegiance to has not pledged allegiance to us. So instead of us wondering about what Jay-Z...
Stop right there. Stop right there. Let me interrupt you for a second and ask you a question. Is it fair to say brutality on the part of some police officers as opposed to police brutality? Is that, when we consider the number of crimes, the inordinate number of criminals, the violence that's being perpetuated throughout our society, et cetera, I'm not about to sit up there and give law enforcement officials a pass. But by and large, most law enforcement officials do their job. There's rogues everywhere, in every industry. And the police officers, the policemen are no exception. So I get that. But do you mind my being careful by trying to taint them with a broad brush? Because I know black police officers, white police officers, Hispanic police officers that literally do what they've sworn to do, and that is to protect and serve. Is it beyond the pale to sit up there, Curtis, and be fair-minded enough to say brutality on the part of some police officers, as opposed to police brutality, like painting the entire industry of police officers with a broad brush. Is that fair?
No, no, that's not. I wouldn't say it's not fair. I consider police officers like referees. There's good refs and there's bad refs, and unfortunately, those bad refs get noticed more. But there's still you have to still talk about each side. So for us, for a black man, for a young, for just young people in general, I have to see that.
Curtis, I'm sorry to interrupt again. I apologize because I got your point, but I want to get back to something. Black folks are dying. You're a black man. Is that correct, Curtis?
Yes, sir. Proud of.
Black folks are dying, right? And you say to some degree, obviously, are by the hands of some police officers. Is that correct?
Yes, but also by us as well.
Yeah. Do you know that in the streets of Chicago, it had gotten so bad that you had black folks on national television calling for the National Guard to come in because it's that kind of war zone? Did you know that?
Yes.
Okay, so why is it that we're talking about police brutality like it's some epidemic without acknowledging what we're doing to ourselves?
I wouldn't, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't talk about anything else, because that's the one thing. We are the ones to break the mold. We are the ones to have to stop this epidemic.
And I applaud you. And I applaud you for saying that. But you do realize you called up and you pointed out terrorism and mentioned police officers without mentioning what we're doing to ourselves. You do understand that?
Yes, sir. With our thing, I just would say it was when it does come down to that, when there are moments that this is a travesty, like there's certain things that are pointed out in the media. That's when we need to start. Well, that's at those moments we need to call it domestic terrorism instead of it just being police brutality. Because now it's became, when you hear that word, a lot of people just have a blind eye, like, oh, it happens every day, so whatever. But when we use when we use that terminology, I think it will awaken some other people that might not know what's going on both sides. So when blacks are killing blacks and when whites are killing whites.
I got you.
But also.
I got you. I appreciate your take. Thanks a lot. Feel free to call back anytime. I get where you're coming from, Curtis. I totally understand. And I don't disagree with you. Thank you for the call. Let's go to Darren. You're live with Stephen A. What's up, Darren?
Stephen A., appreciate you. Listen,
thank you, bro. Go ahead.
I got a lot to say, but I'm trying to make it quick.
Go ahead.
I'm a 52-year-old black man, African-American male. I'm a retired firefighter. So trust and believe I've had this Colin Kaepernick debate with white coworkers and as well with brothers in the shop, the barbershop. So now, it's a very important topic. So, first of all, I completely agree and understand and respect Kaepernick for taking a knee. And I also completely agree, respect, and understand Jay-Z for what he just did with the accomplishment he made. But I want to draw a real quick point. You read Jay-Z's statement yesterday, and I'm going to paraphrase. The very first sentence in that statement was, we have gotten away from the original intent and message of Colin Kaepernick's taking a knee. Now, my question I have for you is this. I truly believe in my heart that if Colin Kaepernick, before that game that he took the knee in, I'm not sure if he tried this or not, but if he had called over a reporter, heck, if he would have called a press conference and said, hey, right, when I go out here on this field today, I'm going to take a knee and explain exactly why he was taking a knee. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. He wasn't the first player to take a knee, but the other players before him were back over by the Gatorade table or back by the trainer's table, back by the bench. He was the first one, and I respect him for this. He went out front, literally and figuratively, and took the knee on the sideline out in the plain view of everyone. But without saying something beforehand, he left it up to interpretation. He left it up for them to think of why he was taking a knee. Whereas if he had said something right before that, he could have snuffed all of that out, and they wouldn't have been able to dilute it, distort it to being something specifically against the flag or whatever they were trying to say back then.
Well, Darren, my response to you is that I appreciate your point of view, but I respectfully disagree. And the reason why I respectfully disagree is because of this reason. I think that people who misconstrue and misinterpret his message are people who simply want to do so. Just because he didn't initially explain before taking a knee doesn't mean that they were confused. He made it very, very clear when interviewed in the locker room after the game what his intent was. And there are people who wanted to misconstrue it. The president is guilty of that. The president hijacked the issue and did so successfully because he turned it into an issue of patriotism with his constituency. And as a result of that, it was hijacked and it morphed into something that it had no business being morphed into. That is what happened. It's not that people were clueless as to what he was doing. It's that they didn't care because they chose to believe someone other than him as it pertained to what the real issue was about.
Real quick, number two, I was listening to your man Sway this morning. They were talking about this, and this controversy between whether Jay-Z and Colin had a conversation. Colin's girlfriend said they didn't have a conversation. There's this controversy with that. And also, Sway was talking about these rappers today. They got to have a beef with somebody or they got to do something controversial to draw attention to themselves. I want people to understand something. And at this morning when I heard that, I was thinking exactly in my mind something that you just brought up just now on your show about MLK and Malcolm X. I agree with you wholeheartedly. People understand that when you are going to be out front and outspoken, especially on these topics, there is going to come along with it some controversy, okay? People are going to try, like you just said, they're going to try to hijack your message regardless of what it is. In my opinion, Eric Reed is ignorant. And the statement that he made about Jay-Z is ignorance. You got to weed through the nonsense, weed through the noise, get to the roots of what is being said and what is being done.
All right.
That is all I got. I appreciate you. I'm going to listen to your comments. Thank you.
I appreciate you. I got to go to commercial break, but I'll be right back, and I'll definitely comment on what you just had, what you just finished saying. Thank you for the call. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. You are listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Back with your calls and more in a minute.